Hello, everybody. You join me back in the basement again for another episode of Ask Zack. And this episode, this volume, this entry into whatever Ask Zack isn't really a question that I get all the time, but it's just something that I wanted to talk about because I find it to be a rather interesting and important topic. First of all, I do want to note I'm actually filming this at night. It's a Friday night. I finally actually wrapped up editing at a reasonable time. Normally I wrap up around 11:30, hit upload, go upstairs, and collapse into my bed. It's like 7 or 8 p.m. I think right now, and so it's 8:42. So I actually have time to do something else at night, and this is what I choose to do. The other thing is I want to note some additions to the set. This was a gift from our friend Carl. This is a piston from a mid-80s Chrysler 2.5 liter that I am now using as a coaster for my tart cherry juice. And then this was a gift from Mr. Robbie DeGraff. This is a Chrysler Atlantic Concept from 1995. So they have joined the set, as well as you might notice a Saab emblem on the wall. This is from a Saab 9.3 Turbo, I believe it's 2006, that we were going to big freaking bottle test, and then the car got totaled. So that is hung up there. So those are the additions to Grandma's basement as of late. Today I wanted to talk, or tonight, I wanted to talk about when I'm wrong. I know, it's a crazy concept, but I get things wrong quite a bit here on the channel. And so I wanted to talk about sort of some of the reasons why that happens, what I do in those scenarios, sort of the fact-finding and things that I do. The long and short of it is that I never want to be wrong. I never want to mess up facts. I never want to, not get my facts straight. I want to be as truthful as I can. And as real as I can. That's why I film the videos while I'm driving, because I don't want it to, be these swooping shots of a car, but it sound like I'm in, a professional recording studio. I want you to get the real feel of the cars when you hear me talking. If I'm talking up here, it's usually because the car is pretty loud and I'm driving it, things like that. New cars messing up is pretty much unacceptable. Because there's so much information given to us. A lot of times it just slips my head. When I go review a car, I don't have any notes with me because, again, I feel like notes, and I want to do a separate Ask Zack about this, about how I write my scripts, because, spoiler alert, I don't have scripts. I literally have a note on my phone that says engine size and displacement, number of cylinders, transmission, number of gears, all-wheel drive or rear-wheel drive, and then if there's something like overly important, like if we're talking like this is one of 37 made, I'll have notes on that. But other than that, it's very slim pickings. Because again, I don't want it to sound like it's rehearsed. I don't want it to sound like this overly produced video. So for new cars, especially the press cars, they send us the window stickers, which is called Monroney. If your word of the day, Monroney, is what a window sticker is. That's just the industry term, is Monroney. So the first couple press cars I got, they're like, "Oh, would you like the Monroney?" And I would go, "Yeah, sure, yeah, send me the Monroney. Yeah, I got space in my garage for Monroney." And it was literally just the window sticker. So for that stuff, and like new car research is pretty straightforward. You could go to Dodge's website for the new EV charger. They have every stat and statistic. And so when I mess that stuff up, a lot of the time it's just me having a brain fart and not catching it in editing. And there isn't really any excuse or reason. I just didn't look into it. I didn't do as good of research. And of course, I always try to avoid that. With the older stuff, it becomes a lot harder, especially like pre-internet cars. I'm sure trying to find info on this Chrysler Atlantic Concept is probably not super easy. And so things like that, like when I'm reviewing a 1970, or I just drove a 1979 Ford Thunderbird, there's not a whole ton online for me to find out. There's not many forum posts for things like that. It's just harder to obtain info. And a lot of the things, a lot of the cars I won't I don't do my research until the night before the video. So even if we have a review scheduled 3 weeks in advance, I'm not doing the research until the night before, so it's fresh in my head. And if I schedule something 3 weeks in advance, I probably have, I don't know, 20 cars before then that I need to film and remember. So I do the research the night before. Sometimes, I'm on the road, I'm trying to do research, and it doesn't work out. And so luckily, YouTube they have tools where you can go back and edit things. I recently did this with the Hummer EV SUV that I had as a press loan. I said that one of the screens, so there's a screen inside the infotainment that it will honk when your tire pressure goes to a certain level. So when you're filling it, it will go up or down. When you're filling it, you can say, hey, honk at 45 PSI because I want to air up. So you're filling it, honk. Okay, that means you're good. I thought that the Hummer had an onboard air compressor because it does for the suspension. However, that is a different air compressor at a different PSI than what the tires is. So that was something that I messed up. And YouTube was great in that regard because I can go into the editor while it's already been posted and hit chop, get rid of it, and things like that. Other times, I don't think, there's only one video that I've actually removed because of the misinformation in it. A lot of the times it's just like, I'll say, oh, the limited trim level comes with a power rear tailgate, but it's actually only the touring model that comes with that, and it's, not available on tour, whatever it is. It's usually like little trim stuff, little options like that I could just either cut out or skip over. Sometimes it just doesn't matter enough to take the video down, and I tell myself, you know what, hey, let's get better next time. That is a big thing, and I do take that very, very seriously when someone does comment like, hey, at 126 this is wrong, it's actually this. I do take those comments very seriously and to heart. Again, I don't want to spread misinformation. I don't want to say the wrong thing. But when you're operating, I don't want to say it like that, when you're operating at such a high level like I am, but like when I'm filming so many cars back to back, it is sometimes hard to keep stuff straight. Something that always bothers me, I think I have a little bit of dyslexia. I don't want to self-diagnose. But the first day of high school, I actually had a class in room 215, and I went to 125, and it was a janitor's closet, and I waited outside for the door to open past the bell, and then I opened it, and it was a bunch of brooms and mops. I reviewed a Dodge Dart. I think it was like a 1973, 1974 Dodge Dart. And I said it had a 255 cubic inch when it had a 225 cubic inch. Everyone called out in the comments, rightfully so, and I got that wrong. And so that's just something that I think about all the time. And now, I'm not going to get that wrong again. Ugh, that's so tart. Tart cherry juice, good for gout. That was also one of those instances I filmed, I think, 8 or 9 cars that day. And so it was just like so many notes, so many numbers floating around. I've always compared myself to McDonald's as opposed, like, I have a friend who posts car reviews. He does like 1 car review a week, maybe 2 car reviews a week if it's a particularly spicy week. And we were talking about it, and he was like, I don't know how you post so many videos a week. How do you post 7 videos a week? And like, yeah, it is a lot of work, but I always equate myself to McDonald's, and he's like that nice, fancy Italian restaurant. I'm going to mess up. I'm going to get things wrong. It's part of the learning process. I hope that, my most recent video is better than the one that came before it. That's really, truly my goal. But people can come to my channel and they'll know that every day at 2 p.m. Central, there's going to be a hot and ready, fresh review for you to watch. Sometimes 2 a day, but, I'm trying to stick to 1 a day, every day, 2 p.m. It's consistent. It's familiar. All my reviews are structured the same way. I'm going to talk about the drivetrain first, then the interior, then the back seats if it has it or trunk, then the exterior, then the final thoughts. That's how the video is going to go. So there's a familiarity there. And, in that, McDonald's messes up all the time. There are mess ups, but I think that they are more consistent than people give them credit for, because you kind of notice the mess ups more. And so I was talking to my buddy, and he was like, and I'm like, you're the Italian restaurant, right? Once a month, once every 6 months for an anniversary, for a birthday or something, like I'm there, and it's a far superior meal. You are having way better food at that Italian restaurant. But you can't afford to eat there every day. The food is so rich, you can't eat it every day. Not that you should eat McDonald's every day, but you get my point. And so that's how I view myself, of just, my ending goal is to review as many cars as I can and put out as many videos as I can, and experience as many cars as I can. I'm on this earth for a very finite amount of time. And thing about it is, I have no idea how much time. So, if I can achieve my whole bucket list of cars by the end of this year, that's great. The faster the better that I can drive everything I want to drive. And of course, once I drive my bucket list cars, there's always cars after that and whatnot. But I'm all about seizing the day and whatnot. So in that process, unfortunately, there are going to be road bumps. Not road bumps, speed bumps, roadblocks, things like that. Things are going to come up, and it's just, my mindset is to learn, to try to avoid it as much as possible. I would love to be right every single day of the week, but I know that that's unrealistic. I think the biggest thing about getting it wrong is admitting when you're wrong. That is the biggest and best thing you can do. I think it's a very mature thing to do, is to say, hey, you know what? You're right. That is a 255, or actually, sorry, that is a 225 cubic inch straight six. That's not a 255. Hey, I'm wrong. I think if more people can admit that, it diffuses a lot of situations. I'm not here on the internet to try to, have some type of measuring contest with the comments. Hey, when you're right, you're right. When you're wrong, you're wrong. I hope people take me at least semi-seriously, because I have driven a lot of cars. But at the end of the day, I want to be the best that I can be. And so in the beginning, when I would get stuff wrong, it would really shut me down. And I think with learning, I think with time, that sort of starts to go away. But it still means a lot to me to sort of stumble and to get facts wrong. And I'll never forget the email that I got from Rolls-Royce, which they luckily were praising the video. They said that they loved the Rolls-Royce Ghost video that I did. But they said, hey, our name is Rolls-Royce. Would you mind fixing that in your title? And I remember just, that the stuff like that sticks with me. And now, even when I text my friends, I'm getting a Rolls Royce, it's Rolls-Royce, I still remember that. And so those are all learning moments. Every stumble, every mix up, every time I'm wrong is something that I can learn from. And that's really the whole point of all of this. I'm only as good as my most recent review, and I'm hoping that the reviews I'm doing now are better than they were a year ago. I hope the reviews that I'm doing next year are better than the ones that I'm doing now. It's a slow process. It's a slow build, but when you're wrong, you're wrong, and it's okay. I don't think there's a certain number of people that will comment and be like, "Oh, you're supposed to be the expert." I'm not the expert. I'm a 27-year-old kid with a GoPro that happens, through hard work, but that happens to have access to a lot of cars. I will never, ever proclaim myself to be like super knowledgeable, or like, very opinionated or right all the time. I'm not. It's YouTube. It's the same platform you see cat videos on, and Gangnam Style. He's a coworker, technically. So don't take yourself too seriously. Learn from your failures. Learn from when you mess up. I think that's the biggest thing. And admit when you mess up. That has been the biggest thing too, is, I emailed Rolls-Royce and I said, hey, I'm sorry I overlooked that. I appreciate you bringing that to my attention. There we go. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Ask Zack. A little bit more serious of a topic. But I appreciate it. I appreciate doing these. I always love doing these. And I'm glad I found some time to do it. If you guys have questions you want answered on Ask Zack, please leave it in the comments down below. But until next time, good night, everyone.